Well, we have breaking news coming in at the moment. Iran says that they are ending hostilities. This is the latest statement coming in after a wave of attacks, and 3 people have been killed in Israel. We have the latest statement from Iran at the moment, clearly, categorically saying that they are ending hostilities. The attacks were after Trump's ceasefire claim, and the latest statement coming in after Iran's missile barrage into Israel. Iran says it's ceasefire for now. We are, of course, waiting for an official update from Tel Aviv, whether or not they are honoring the ceasefire agreement. But Gauri Dwivedi is tracking the latest. She has further details as far as Iran's latest statement is concerned. Gauri, we're given to understand that Iran is saying it's ending hostilities and it's ceasefire for now.
Indeed, Parmeshwar, that's the announcement that's come in from the Iranian state media, that the ceasefire that Donald Trump announced several hours ago has, as per Iranian state media, now come into effect. And now going into this ceasefire, one saw missile barrages across several Israeli cities. And our colleague Ankit was, in fact, reporting from there. The air raid sirens that have been up across Israel through the course of the last couple of hours. Now, that is likely to now stop with the announcement of ceasefire. That means ending or cessation of hostilities from both sides. Now, if Iran stops those missile barrages into Israel, there's an expectation that Israel will also do so. And that is when the entire ceasefire proposal that has been negotiated by America will come into being, will come into force. Trump announced it several hours ago, but during that intervening period when the ceasefire was to come into effect, massive strikes have taken place across several cities in Israel. There have been casualties as well, which you've reported. But if this ceasefire does come into effect, Parmeshwar, as we've been talking, as Donald Trump first announced, and the Iranian state media saying, it does mean the focus will once again shift away from hostilities back to the negotiating table, something that hasn't been spoken about in the last 12 days, because it was on ground where all action was actually taking place. Now, going forward, if the ceasefire does hold, Parmeshwar, it means that dialogue and diplomacy will once again be given a chance, and there will be no further strikes either from Iran or from Israel. Of course, Iran is holding fire on the presumption that Israel will keep its end of the bargain as well, which is that there has to be no strike from Israeli side as well. Now, if that does take place, it means that possibly those talks that have been practically frozen with regard to the Iranian nuclear plan will once again be revived and will become center stage. But most importantly, one also needs to now talk about, Parmeshwar, in terms of how this is likely to reshape America's role in the region, because in the backdrop of a negotiated settlement by America in this war, once again the focus will come back on how America sees itself in the Middle East, its role, and that will be extremely important going forward. Parmeshwar.
Right, Ankit Tyagi is also with us at the moment. Gauri, thanks so much for that update. Ankit, we're given to understand that Iranian officials have said that it's ceasefire now. What's the latest you can report at the moment? What are you observing in Tel Aviv?
Well, no confirmation from the Israeli authorities as far as the ceasefire is concerned. In fact, I was just, having a conversation with some of the officials here, and I asked them, is there any confirmation about the ceasefire? The message that I was sent back is ceasefire with a question mark, saying on the back of people being killed in Israel. So that clearly means that at least officially nothing has been said as far as the ceasefire is concerned. And till the time there is not an official confirmation from the Israeli government or the military, it is going to be the Israeli army, the defense force. It is going to be a very fragile sort of arrangement that is, that is going to be in place. But I can tell you at this moment, the number of dead in Beersheba have gone up to 4. And throughout the time that I have been in Israel, one thing that people have been saying, I went to multiple places where Iranian missiles had hit day before and yesterday as well, where people were saying that till the time, people are safe, till the time there are no deaths, till the time there are no injuries, it doesn't matter how many missiles they lob, and buildings can be rebuilt. But there is a significant amount of anger that builds up as soon as casualty figures start coming in. So we will have to wait and see how what has happened today in the morning in Beersheba has the bearing as far as this entire fragile ceasefire process is concerned. Remember, we are talking about 4 dead at this moment, many others injured. There are rescuers still looking at this area, trying to find out and figure out whether there are people trapped in the rubble as well. It happened early in the morning. Probably those people were not in the safe shelters in Israel. It is mandated that every building does have a safe shelter. Old buildings which do not, then people are usually seen taken to hotels and other places for their safekeeping. But if this has happened, it will have a bearing on what Israel does from here on. Gauri, my colleague, is still with us. Gauri, like I was saying, there has been no confirmation from Israel at this moment. This will mean that despite the announcements possibly being forced on Israel by Donald Trump, it may or may not have any impact, real impact on the ground.
Indeed, Ankit, the point that you've made is extremely important, which is that if lives are lost, then Benjamin Netanyahu and his government would want to be seen to be responding to Iranian strikes. And that will be an extremely important aspect of public sentiment that the Israeli government will not be able to completely ignore. At least it will have to convey that very strongly to the Trump administration as well, which has brokered this and negotiated this peace settlement. Remember, in just the last couple of hours, as you're saying, 4 people have been killed in Iranian strikes. For Israel to not respond would be politically unpalatable. Still possible, given the fact that both sides would agree to the ceasefire, and Benjamin Netanyahu would want to be on Trump's right side and his good books. But the fact that Israeli citizens, you've been speaking to so many of them, they've been extremely upset with the long war that's been going on since 7th of October 2023. And now with these Israeli citizens that have been killed in the last couple of hours, if there is no response from Tel Aviv, then it will be seen to be succumbing and bowing to Iranian pressure. And that will be very difficult from a popular and public sentiment point of view. But at the same time, Netanyahu cannot be seen to be not following what Trump's directive is when it comes to the peace settlement. And which is why it will be very difficult and politically difficult for Benjamin Netanyahu and his government to what should be the kind of response to this Iranian strikes that have come in. But at the same time, Ankit, also on ground, the support that is there for a long-drawn war is also not there. You've been speaking to so many people there. They don't want another long-drawn war. And could that be the reason why, despite Iranian strikes, Israel may not go ahead and retaliate? Israel may not go ahead.
You're absolutely right. There is zero support for a long-drawn war. Majority people do support this entire operation. And, as I was saying earlier, they believe that once United States bombed those nuclear sites on Sunday morning, the objectives of this operation have been achieved. Remember, just before 7th October 2023, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, was facing a very difficult political situation, charges of corruption and others, and there were protests against him as well. And since then, the long-drawn war in Gaza, and now the hostilities with Iran, though people support the Israeli Defense Forces' operation and what is happening, but they do not want to see another endless kind of a war, and with where there is no sense of what the final objective is. In this operation, it was very clearly defined that the objective was to ensure that Iran is completely debarred of the capability and the capacity to develop any nuclear weapons. With America jumping in and those attacks, people believe that objective has been met. So whether there is going to be an increasing sentiment, especially from the far right parties, because now people have died. Even yesterday in the attacks and day before, I saw there were some people, those who were injured, more than 85 on Sunday, but there were no critical injuries. But this time, this attack on in Beersheba, the direct hit in Beersheba, which has resulted in the death of 4 people and other injuries as well, could in fact stir some sentiments. So it is going to be a very difficult, in fact, walk for Netanyahu at this moment to try and decide what is the way forward. Already there have been reports from Iran where they said that there have been some sort of attacks that were conducted, some operations which were conducted by the Israeli Air Force last night, and they said that this was in retaliation to those attacks. So whether this round of action and reaction ceases now or not, we will have to wait and see. Vishal, my colleague, is also with us at this moment. Vishal, very quickly coming to you, Iran has declared ceasefire. The President of America, Donald Trump, has mandated this, has worked this ceasefire out, but given what has happened since morning, possibly for the domestic audience in Iran, this will be projected as a victory in this war. It is going to be the next few hours that are and days that will decide whether this fragile peace holds in the region or not.
Yeah, that will have to be seen, Ankit. And as you rightly mentioned, this is being projected as a victory in the local media, especially the state media has been at it, and different state media organizations are there in Iranian regime. One of them has even gone on to say that Trump begged for a ceasefire. So that was a big statement coming from the official sources in the Iranian regime. So the different medias have released different kind of statements. Fars News Media, which is the IRGC's news media wing, released that statement of a ceasefire having begun. So that goes to show that they are serious about this, because IRGC, is the main military wing of Iranian regime, and that is responsible for all the ballistic missiles. So the fact that the media wing of IRGC released that statement that there will be a ceasefire, that goes to show they are willing to an agreement. It all boils down to what Israel does now, because Israel has so far not yet responded officially. Many statements have come from Iran's side. Trump has been taking to social media talking about various angles of the ceasefire, why both the parties approached US administration, but so far Israel is mum on this. It will be interesting to see what Israel does. As you rightly mentioned, Israel has the right to respond, because these have been some of the most intense strikes on the Israeli soil ever since conflict began. 4 people have been killed so far in the latest strikes, and some reports suggest that this death toll could go up to about 10 to 11. So that will have to be seen how Israel responds to this. Will it agree to the ceasefire, or there will be more retaliation from the Israeli side?